Okay.
So, you all, this is our last Zoom session for the semester, and we're actually going to be providing feedback to each other for AAPTEL Task 3. And I'm going to begin by providing feedback to Chris. She posted hers, and I was able to read through it adequately and go ahead and complete the review. And I do hope that what I'm saying is going to make sense once I get started. I found that throughout the process of doing task 3, that there was just, I felt a lot of places where I was repeating the same thing over again. And I don't know if you all felt that way as well. So I kind of wanted to focus on the information without necessarily going through the minutia of it. So I did feel that the task was aligned, the narrative was aligned with the task. I do think she does a good job of that. And of course, each facet of the prompt is addressed and relates the information back to task 2, including information on resource result oriented professional development and approaches to evaluation. The rubric strength was, of course, that you share your survey design and you list each growth step within the growth plan with great detail, including strategic goals. I thought that was excellent. The one kind of glaring rubric weakness that I saw was that even if you outline the steps in the growth plan with timelines, formative, and assessment criteria, the responsibilities do not include the names of individuals. So therefore, the tasks haven't been assigned. It just says PLC group members or team members. And what I found out is that whenever you have a plan, unless it's attached to someone's name, people don't necessarily complete the task or take it seriously.
Okay.
So I thought your narrative definitely demonstrated leadership and you addressed the issues that you presented in task 2 very well. Um, of course, the narrative does utilize formal language. Once you resolve your run-on sentences and your grammatical errors, I think the task will have improved readability and it'll flow better. I do encourage you to go back and kind of think about whether or not you can condense some of the sections so that you're not resharing the same information and it becomes a much easier read. I do think your organization closely follows the template structure and all of your information is easily located with your subheadings. And you label your graphic growth plan that you presented to the administration. And then, of course, APA formatting is used. I think the greatest part of this task was that there were not a lot of citations required. So I didn't have to look at a lot of citations to make sure that they were correct. So, you have any questions for me, Christy?
No, I like every other part of this. I've been confused, and like I felt the same thing about you, like you had mentioned about being repetitive and trying to include what was being asked for in the description without being repetitive was very hard for me, and so I really struggled with that. So.
Yeah, I think it was some definite overlap in the template structure
Mhm.
because you were offering it. And I think I have noticed that when you deviate from the template structure, you're told not to. But when you don't deviate from the template structure, you do get a lot of repetitiveness, like
Mhm.
the specific task, the
Yes.
timeline. And
Yes.
okay, and I'm thinking when I wrote the specific task, I included a timeline
Mhm.
because it's not a specific, I didn't really consider it a specific task without a timeline.
Yeah.
So I did notice that. And so hopefully we'll get some good feedback. I think if we're still confused about it, I think I'm just going to solicit some advice from Dr. Stedman and see
Mhm.
what he has to say about that.
Yeah.
To see if we're able to, omit some of those sections or
Mhm.
do they include it.
Yeah, because I think that my understanding and as of reading just the description of the template, that also then goes and impacts my scoring, looking at other people's as well, because I'm not real sure exactly what you're wanting. I mean, you know what? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It really does
Mhm.
make sense.
Yeah. So
And
that's
I
been my
think,
struggle.
yeah, and I think all of us, well, I don't know if I shouldn't speak for Halima, but I think all of us kind of I definitely struggled with this task because I
Yes.
thought overlap, and I just I would sit down to work on it, and then I would become distracted, or I'd be like, well, why is this section included if they already have this section?
Yeah.
And I was still, grappling with that because I was like, okay, whoever has to read this, it's going to be mind numbing
Yeah.
after the fifth page.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so,
Thank you.
I was always trained when you're writing, um, unless you need to say it, you don't keep saying it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was
Mhm.
part of it. And so I'm going to move on and provide Halima her feedback. Congratulations on finishing it so quickly.
It
Um,
wasn't quickly, really. Actually, we were all late because the draft was due last week.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so no, I wasn't on time. I was feeling bad about not having it done last week. I just was trying to get it in before this Sunday.
Yeah, and I think we all are because as we were talking about the disclaimer on the last week, I don't know if you all read that in the syllabus,
They said use
but
this week to catch up or something like that.
um, yes, and it says on week, because as I was looking at this, I thought, oh my goodness, it says this on week 16. This week is reserved if needed to work with any student who may have not met the week 15 deadline.
Mhm.
Please do not let this be you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I was like, man, I need to try and work on this
Uh-huh.
not being me. And it's right here in our syllabus, people. It's right here. I
Mhm.
highlighted it. Because I said, did they really put that in there? And then I said, it's in there.
I was talking to my fiance about it. I said that would not be me. Trust.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was saying. I was like, this cannot be me with
Mhm.
everything else that's going on. So
Mhm.
it gets straight into your peer review.
Okay.
So we can talk about it. Yes, I did think that your task was aligned with the course content, and you did use external sources appropriately. And I think the best part is that you utilize your data to relate it back to the AppTel task too. The candidate provides very detailed information regarding the composition of her team and their educational background experience. Congratulations on finding so many people that wanted to work with you on this. I only found two at my school.
Mhm.
Also, the candidate details the gap analysis of necessary leadership action steps. And I thought that was very nice that you did that. Your rubric weakness, the candidate, you should possibly consider developing your articulation of the team's vision for a positive school environment. What does that look like at Ashley? Like if you could go in and sweep it with a magic wand, what would you change to give the children the optimal learning experience?
Okay.
The task includes the school's vision and goals, but it does not include details. For example, the vision is achieving measurable growth in all curriculum areas through real world experiences and efforts to be college and career ready. So the
Mhm.
question I listed here was how much measurable growth in each content area? Like, what are you all hoping for? I know everyone wants 100%, but growth
Mhm.
precedes proficiency. So what's the goal? Do you
Okay.
have a goal? Um, and so just share that because I think it's important to, like I used to tell my students, there's a number up saying what kind of proficiency I want because you need to be achieving this on your test. And
Mhm.
that number kind of helps you gauge where students are and where you are in relationship to that growth goal.
Okay.
The narrative demonstrates leadership. It compiles information and documents a strategic growth plan. And then, of course, the mechanics and grammar. The narrative does utilize formal language. The author should address subject verb agreement and run on sentences. And that's, I think, more so in the latter portion of the paper. The
Okay.
organization, again, you did very well with that. The narrative closely follows the template structure, and the evidence presented is easy to locate and label according to the directions. You used all of the subheadings that they listed in the prompt for each step, and I thought that was wonderful, whereas I was tempted to veer off the beaten path.
Mhm.
APA formatting is used, and I probably need to correct this because I said it's used with errors. and there is no reference section as far as I saw. But I wanted to make sure that you included a note on your growth plan.
Say what? Include what?
A note, a
Uh,
descriptive note on your growth plan.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did you have any questions for me?
No, it's always. Thank you for your good feedback.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Christy, are you ready to provide feedback?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Let's see. I will start with Miss Tamara. I have that the task content is aligned with the course content. And for rubric strength, the development of the team to address teacher empowerment and leadership as a strength. There was sufficient evidence to give a broad background on each member of the team, and I really liked that. Another strength is the description of the leadership teams and their responsibilities. Like you had said on mine, you noted what each person was doing, so that was a strength that was really good in yours. The rubric weakness that I put, an area of weakness is the lack of visual checklists and a gap analysis needs assessment. And I put that may have been present in the previous task. And that's where I think some of my misunderstanding with, the repetitiveness of, so I'm like, is that really supposed to be there or not? So that, I think that may or may not be my confusion or my understanding. For leadership, you definitely demonstrated leadership at an accomplished level in the formation of a team to address teacher empowerment and leadership. The candidate led the group in creating a growth plan and communicated with administration and staff the implementation strategy that you were going to use for the plan. Everything was very clear and evident and precisely just laid out really well. The evidence narrative is written professionally in formal language. I didn't notice any kind of glaring mistakes. I just added a note about editing again before the final submission. And then evidence narrative is structured in a manner that is logical, organized, and professional. There were just a couple of issues with the spacing. And I think that might be if you're working in one thing and then if you download it in something else, maybe that's causing the spacing issue. So I wasn't sure about that, but I wanted to mention it. And then the citations and tables are labeled. I noticed that there was not a reference section or an appendix section, but I knew that you've had that for every other section and it'll just be added at the end. So I just thought I would mention that. I think you're muted, Tamara. Tamara?
Yeah. I did not have a single reference for this section, which I thought was the best part of the task.
Yes, and that's what I figured because you've already done it, and so I didn't even write it on there, so because I knew you would add it to the end.
Okay, but I'll definitely go back and look at the spacing because I need to proofread it definitely.
And I think that just going back and clarifying what's supposed to be in there, and I know that I need to do that as well. So okay, Halima. For yours, I have the task content is aligned with the course content. The development of the team to address teacher empowerment and leadership is a strength. There was sufficient evidence to give a broad background on each member of the team, just like in Tamara's. You both did a really good job with that. Another strength that I noticed in your work is the description of the PLC meeting and the gap analysis, the inclusion of the presentation, and the slideshow graphic are all strengths that supported the work that you did. An area of weakness is what I put was a lack of a visual checklist, which may have been presented in the previous task. The same thing as what I had mentioned with Tamara's. I'm not sure if that is required in this section or not. That may have just been my misunderstanding. But the leadership demonstration was accomplished. You formed a team to address the teacher empowerment leadership. You led the group in a PLC meeting, the analysis of the data, creating a growth plan, the timeline of the specific activities. You communicate with administration and the staff. All of that was very well written and laid out and organized. The evidence narrative is written professionally in a formal language with little error. Again, I noted to just edit before final submission. And the evidence narrative is structured in a manner that is logical, organized, professional. And that, I think, is it. I thought it was very detailed, and I enjoyed reading it.
Thank you for your feedback.
Awesome. Halima?
So yes, I'm gonna do Christy's review first. Yes, the content is aligned with the course content, and the author did a great job of staying on topic and supporting your growth plan in the narrative. The areas of strength is your vision for the positive school environment section of the text. The candidate did a great job with making the vision of the school clear and connecting it with the growth plan. The area of weakness in the text is, and I could have missed this. I went back a few times. I saw where you did pieces of it, but I didn't see a clear paragraph of the development of the growth plan. And I was I just put the instructions on where it says on the rubric that you are supposed to form a team and create this growth plan together. I think that you had one, you referenced it in the text, but you don't really talk about how you came up with it. Leadership is demonstrated because the candidate used the teacher empowerment and leadership checklist, the needs assessment, and the data that was collected to create a growth plan. I think you did a great job with that. The evidence is written professionally and follows the rubric. There are some grammar mistakes, such as spacing. I just put a note, make sure your heading drops down to the next page with your paragraph it supports. And spelling, you just had one that I've seen, notice the spelling. I think it was like first few sections, you put, you misspelled reminding. It doesn't highlight it for some reason. I don't know why, but it just stuck out to me. You put an N after the D, and then just a few verb tense agreements. The evidence narrative is structured in a professional manner. The headings and subheadings are clearly presented, and evidence is easy to locate. I don't know, and I guess this is a question that I want to ask because I've made this mistake before. But as far as the heading, I kind of went back in the APA, and it says when you're doing a heading that all words, 3 letters or more should be capitalized. So I just put up that note because I'm not sure if that means anything or if it even matter. The structure of the narrative follows the guidelines of the template that was provided, and the format follows APA format, and the author cited evidence correctly. So that's what I have for you, Chris. Do you have any questions?
After I read yours and Tamara's, I noticed that about the development of the plan. When I thought back about mine, I'm like, you didn't detail that. So
yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. And tomorrow I was able to look at yours just briefly. I started a task feedback form for you, but I didn't get a chance to finish it. But yes, the task content is aligned with the course content. The author did a great job of staying on topic with and supporting the growth plan and the narrative. I think the area of strength were your activities that you listed. You did a great job going into details with the activities and the deadline, the dates, and the timeline with them. And they all connected back to your needs assessment. So I think that was good. The area of weakness, I just was I really didn't see one from what I was looking at. Just some simple grammatical errors. Your spacing is off a little bit. Like you need to drop down, like I said, Christy, drop down your topics to your paragraph. They're like stuck up on the last page. And that was pretty much it. You have everything that's in the rubric. You did a great job going into details. Your growth plan is awesome. But I am with you, Kristen. I don't know if I did, and I thought I did. If I didn't, I meant to. I did mean to add my checklist and everything I use at the PLC. I meant to add that to my paper. So I might go back and do that just so I can have my checklist and my needs assessments and my data, all the stuff we were supposed to have at the PLT. So yeah. You have any questions, Tamara? I think you're muted too, Christy.
We're being
There we go. Is
Tamara
Tamara still with us?
muted.
I said I'm definitely gonna work on it some more tomorrow before I submit the final. Because
Okay.
what I find out is that after I revise them, I put them all together and then I revise them again. And then after that, I submit it to Turnitin and then to Task Stream, which I'm hoping to have it submitted to Task Stream on my handy dandy it says by
Planner,
Wednesday.
you're playing.
My planner by Wednesday. Yes, I'm all about some post-it to-do list or some electronic to-do list. But the problem is that on these little Chromebooks, the more windows you have open, the slower they run. Most definitely. But we still have 8 minutes and 24 seconds remaining. Frida, did you want to offer some feedback?
Is Frida with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Frida. I didn't know you were with us.
Hey, yeah, I'm here. I'm still working. Um, but I did take a glance at, really, took a glance at everyone's, and y'all write so well. Everything was just so well written. So I'll go to the two that I did start filling out a review sheet for tomorrow and Christy. And so for Christy, the task was aligned with the content course. For strength, um, your vision statement about the information about your vision statement was really, really detailed and really good. And the way you compiled the information from task 1 and 2 and compiled it together and related it back to supporting your growth plan for your school was a strength that I noted. For the weakness area, I guess the initial part for the assembling the team information and how you created the growth plan, and I believe it's very redundant from what everyone else said. But just in reading back, and I wasn't sure if I was reading the instructions correctly and if I was getting the right information or thought of as to what we were supposed to be writing. I was just confused as well as to what you all were referencing earlier. So I'm hoping that makes sense about the assembling the team information, because initially it says an analytical narrative about assembling a team to create the growth plan. Um, and then for you demonstrated leadership by compiling the information related directly back to your setting and supporting your growth plan. Of course, the narrative written professionally, and I've always put the general suggestion to review for correct spelling and grammar, just to make sure everything is as it should be, and also to check for APA and citation correctly, and organization professional. The subheadings and the headings looked like they were clear. And for tomorrow, of course, the task content was aligned. One of the strengths that I noted was the great information detail that you had compiled from the data, and your growth plan chart was really awesome. It was a good graphic. Um, and of course, I noticed that you didn't have the references, but in the checklist, I saw you listed things and you had the chart, but I guess I was confused as to how the checklist was going to look different. There was a lot of different things in there that I'm still trying to figure out how everything should be presented in that area. But for leadership, you demonstrate leadership by creating a team and leading the team through the process of creating deciphering the information and creating the growth plan and related it back to into your setting. Of course, the narrative was written professionally, and the general statement about checking for grammar and spelling, and checking for the citations and making sure that everything is organized. The headings and the subheadings were clear and present, and it followed the structure of the narrative closely. And that's all. I pretty much, that's all I had.
And as I was listening to you giving the feedback, and I was thinking about what everybody else had said and how I had felt writing, and I think, to me, the description of what we were supposed to do for this task and the rubric are not aligned. Does anybody else feel that way?
Yes, it's not aligned. Because I went back and checked. I went back and looked at the rubric as well. Yes, you're correct.
So I struggled when I was giving each one of you feedback as to, am I supposed to address it to the rubric or the description of the task? And because to me, they were not the same thing. And so
they definitely weren't the same thing. But one thing I did notice was that you did the checklist in task 2. You did the checklist in task 2. Okay. After you did the checklist, we did the literature review in task 1. We did the checklist in task 2, and talked about the data to support the checklist and the creation of the checklist. I was thinking that task 3 naturally meant addressing all of the issues you did not fulfill or that you were unable to check off in the checklist.
Okay.
So that was my rationale.
Okay.
Literature review represented the research of how what schools ideally should be. Then the checklist, you looked at what your school was with the data, and then you created the checklist to see what your school should be, and then you completed the needs analysis to fulfill the checklist. So I was kind of thinking along those lines, maybe, and that kind of helped me put it in more perspective, because about 2 pages into it, I was really kind of like, okay, this is a bit much. And then initially, as I was trying to find people to work with me on this, this was truly a hard task to find someone to collaborate with me, because you needed I needed people who were focused enough to think about the actual need without it becoming a gripe session about individuals. So
I agree with you.
Yeah, that was harder for me. But I'm going to keep working. I promise you that if it's not right, when we submit the task screen, we'll get a lovely email saying to revisit.
I hope so.
And, because I was like, I promise you we will, because I think there have been a few people in our cohort that have gotten those emails.
Okay.
So, at least then once we submit, we'll know where we're going.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Well, that makes me feel better, ladies. We have less than a minute, so I'm going to stop the recording. Does anybody else have anything to say that they want in the recording?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. I stopped. Oh, no, I stopped the video. How do I stop the recording?